Hey, this is Rick, and we're going to get into the Neville Barbados story because I like it a lot. And it's chill around here tonight because I have the house to myself for a little while anyway. Feeling good, you know. I hope you're feeling great out there. Everything is smooth in your life. I know it. I know it is if you're following Neville, doing doing the things that you want to do, that you should be doing. I feel really relaxed and mellow. Let's start. It was in the fall of 1933 in New York City that I approached Abdullah with a problem. He asked me one simple question. What do you want? I told him I would like to spend the winter in Barbados. He said I was broke. I literally did not have a nickel. If you will imagine yourself to be in Barbados, said he, thinking and viewing the world from that state of consciousness. Instead of thinking of Barbados, you will spend the winter there. You must not concern yourself with the ways and means of getting there, for the state of consciousness of already being in Barbados, if occupied by your imagination, will devise the means best suited to realize itself. Man lives by committing himself to invisible states, by fusing his imagination with what he knows to be other than himself, what he knows to be other than himself. And in this union, he experiences the results of that fusion. No one can lose what he has, save by detachment from the state where the things experienced have their natural life. You must imagine yourself right into the state of your fulfilled desire, Abdullah told me. You must imagine yourself right into the state of your fulfilled desire. And fall asleep viewing the world from Barbados. The world which we describe from observation must be as we describe it relative to ourselves. Our imagination connects us with the state desired. But we must use imagination masterfully, not as an onlooker thinking of the end, but as a partaker thinking from the end. We must actually be there in imagination. If we do this, our subjective experience will be realized objectively. This is not mere fancy, but a truth you can prove by experience. Dullah's appeal to enter into the wish fulfilled was the secret of thinking from the end. Every state is already there as a mere possibility. As long as you think of it, as long as you think of it. But it is overpoweringly real when you think from it. Thinking from the end is the way of Christ. I began right there and then, fixing my thoughts beyond the limits of sense, beyond that aspect to which my present state gave being, towards the feeling of already being in Barbados and viewing the world from that standpoint. He emphasized the importance of the state from which man views the world as he falls asleep. All prophets claim that the voice of God is chiefly heard by men in dreams. In dreams. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumbering upon the bed, then he opened the ears of men, then he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instructions. Their instructions. That night, and for several nights thereafter, I fell asleep in the assumption that I was in my father's house in Barbados. Within a month, I received a letter from my brother saying that he had a strong desire to have the family together at Christmas, and asked me to use the enclosed steamship ticket. Wouldn't that be nice? The steamship ticket. Oh, that is nice. A steamship ticket for Barbados. I sailed 2 days after I received my brother's letter and spent a wonderful winter in Barbados. This experience has convinced me that man can be anything he pleases if he will make the conception habitual and think from the end. It has also shown me that I can no longer excuse myself by placing the blame on the world of external things, that my good and my evil have no dependency except from myself. That it depends on the state from which I view the world, how things present themselves. Man who is free in his choice acts from conceptions which he freely, though not always wisely, chooses. All conceivable states are awaiting our choice and occupancy, but no amount of rationalizing will of itself yield us the state of consciousness, which is the only thing worth having. The imaginative image is the only thing to see. The ultimate purpose of imagination is to create in us the spirit of Jesus, which is continual forgiveness of sin, continual identification of man with his ideal. Only by identifying ourselves with our aim can we forgive ourselves for having missed it. All else is labor in vain. On this path, to whatever place or state we convey our imagination, to that place or state we will gravitate physically also. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. By sleeping in my Father's house, in my imagination, as though I slept there in the flesh, I fused my imagination with that state and was compelled to experience that state in the flesh also. So vivid was the state to me, it could have been seen in my Father's house had any sensitive entered the room or in imagination I was sleeping. A man can be seen where in imagination he is, for a man must be where his imagination is, for his imagination is himself. This I know from experience, for I have seen, for I have been seen by a few to whom I desired to be seen, when physically I was hundreds of miles away. I, by the intensity of my imagination and feeling, imagining and feeling myself to be in Barbados, instead of merely thinking of Barbados, had spanned the vast Atlantic to influence my brother into desiring my presence to complete the family circle at Christmas. Thinking from the end, from the feeling of my wish fulfilled, was the source of everything that happened as outer cause, such as my brother's impulse to send me a steamship ticket. And it was also the cause of everything that appeared as results. In ideas of good and evil, W.B. Yeats, having described a few experiences similar to this experience of mine, writes, if all who have described events like this have not dreamed, we should rewrite our histories. For all men, certainly all imaginative men, must be forever casting forth enchantments, glamour, illusions. And all men, especially tranquil men, who have no powerful egotistic life, must be continually passing under their power. Determined imagination, thinking from the end, is the beginning of all miracles. I would like to give you an immense belief in miracles, but a miracle is only the name given by those who have no knowledge of the power and function of imagination to the works of imagination. Imagining oneself into the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the means by which a new state is entered. This gives the state the quality of isness. Hermes tells us that which is manifested. That which has been or shall be is unmanifested, but not dead. For soul, the eternal activity of God, animates all things. The future must become the present. The future must become the present in the imagination of the one who would wisely and continuously create circumstances. We must translate vision into being, thinking of it, thinking of into, thinking from, thinking of into, thinking from. We must change thinking of into thinking from. First person, inside the vision, inside your vision, inside your end. Imagination must center itself in some state and view the world from that state. Thinking from the end is an intense perception of the world of fulfilled desire. Thinking from the end is an intense perception of the world of fulfilled desire. Thinking from the state desired is creative living. Ignorance of this ability to think from the end is bondage. It is the root of all bondage with which man is bound. To passively surrender to the evidence of the senses underestimates the capacities of the inner self. Once man accepts thinking from the end as a creative principle in which he can cooperate, then he is redeemed from the absurdity of ever attempting to achieve his objective by merely thinking of it. Construct all ends according to the pattern of fulfilled desire. Construct all ends according to the pattern of fulfilled desire. The whole of life is just the appeasement of hunger. And the infinite states of consciousness from which a man can view the world are purely a means of satisfying that hunger. The principle upon which each state is organized is some form of hunger to lift the passion for self-gratification to ever higher and higher levels of experience. Desire is the mainspring of the mental machinery. It is a right and natural craving which has a state of consciousness as its right and natural satisfaction. But one thing I do, forgetting the things which are behind, and stretching forward to the things which are before, I press on towards the goal. But one thing I do, forgetting the things which are behind, and stretching forward to the things which are before, I press on toward the goal. It is necessary to have an aim in life. Without an aim, we drift. What wantest thou of me? What wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? Is the implied question. Asked most often by the central figure of the Gospels. In defining your aim, you must want it. As the heart panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. It is lack of this passionate direction to life that makes man fail of accomplishment. The spanning of the bridge between desire, thinking of, and satisfaction, thinking from, is all important. We must move mentally from thinking of the end to thinking from the end. This reason could never do. By its nature, it is restricted to the evidence of the senses. But imagination, having no such limitation, can. This reason could never do. By its nature, it is restricted. By its nature, reason is restricted to the evidence of the senses. But imagination, having no such limitation, can do it in your imagination. You can do it in your imagination. Can't do it if you're using reason. You have to use fantasy. Fantasy becomes reality. Just dwell in it. Desire exists to be gratified in the activity of imagination. Through imagination, man escapes from the limitation of the senses and the bondage of reason. There is no stopping the man who can think from the end. Nothing can stop him. He creates the means and grows his way out of limitation into ever greater and greater mansions of the Lord. Mansions of the Lord. It does not matter what he has been or what he is. All that matters is what does he want. He knows that the world is a manifestation of the mental activity which goes on within himself. So he strives to determine and control the ends from which he thinks. In his imagination, he dwells in the end, confident that he shall dwell there in the flesh also. Dwell there in the end, confident that you shall dwell in the flesh. In our imaginations, we dwell in the end, confident that we will also dwell there in reality, in the flesh. He puts his whole trust in the feeling of the wish fulfilled and lives by committing himself to that state. For the art of fortune is to tempt him so to do. Like the man at the pool of Bethesda, he is ready for the moving of the waters of imagination, knowing that every desire is ripe grain to him. Who knows how to think from the end? The one that knows how to think from the end. His every desire is ripe grain. He is indifferent to mere reasonable probability, and confident that through continuous imagination, his assumptions will harden into fact. But how to persuade men everywhere that thinking from the end is the only living? How to foster it in every activity of men? How to reveal it as the plenitude of life and not the compensation of the disappointed? That is the problem. Life is a controllable thing. Life is a controllable thing. Life is a controllable thing. You can experience what you please once you realize that you are his son and that you are what you are by virtue of the state of consciousness from which you think and view the world. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Thank you for being with me tonight. Thank you for being with me today. Have a great life. Have a great day. A great life and a great eternity. This is Rick. Thank you for visiting my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you to readnevillegutter.com, which is not my site. Thank you to the site maker and owner for the great readings. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for being here.